Hey, welcome to another episode of Goal Horns and Fight Songs. I am your host, Wes, and joining me once again, as always, is Mike. I
How's it
think
go?
we had a pretty good weekend of hockey this weekend. 4 days of fun that didn't necessarily end the way we wanted to, but I think a lot of good games happened anyway.
Yeah, I think it wasn't our ideal situation, but it was still a lot of fun to watch all the games over the past 4 days. Especially when I had the big TV at work and was able to throw them on. Maybe not as much work got done, but still a lot more fun than having no hockey.
Dude, Friday was the most gut wrenching experience of watching a hockey game at work ever. It
Yeah,
was awful.
I wasn't even. I was cheering for you guys, but they weren't my team, and I was still. I stopped work and I checked out for a little bit, and I wanted to watch the end of that one.
Uh, Super good game. Both goalies played outstanding. Little drama there, as well as the first game that took place in the same regional. So, or later that night, I think it was. Or no, Thursday night with Notre Dame and North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and actually, we can get right into. I don't remember where I put it now. Into how we did on picks. I think the first day I missed one. I missed the Notre Dame North Dakota game for sure, as that one
Yep,
went into overtime.
I know you missed that one, and you also missed the St. Cloud game. You picked St. Cloud to beat Quinnipiac. I actually had a perfect bracket after the first round, which amazed me. Um, Things got a little bit dicey there on some of my picks. Obviously, the Western game, and then Notre Dame, Quinnipiac. Actually, they gave up 4 goals for the first time all year in
Oh
their
yeah,
game against Cloud, which that was impressive. So I mean, I guess we can probably just start going from the top down, and we watched between you and I, we watched basically every game. There was a couple that I missed. There was a couple that you missed. Um, but between the two of us, we watched pretty much every game that there was.
yeah. The only one I didn't watch any of was the Michigan Quinnipiac game, and that was because I was emotionally defeated after the Western loss to Minnesota. Um,
Yeah,
but I mean, other than that, like every game was really good. I think we got the matchups in the second round that we wanted to see. The Denver Duluth game did not disappoint whatsoever. It came down to essentially one misplayed puck
mm-hmm.
by Ryan Fanti. Um, but again, those kinds of things happen when you've been so good for so long, as he was, and then you play a team that's super familiar with you. Like, if it was gonna happen in a game, it was kind of gonna be that one, really.
And you and I were messaging back and forth during that game, and I said it's 100% NCHC game.
Yeah.
Like that's it was the epitome of what the conference is. Um, it was hard fought. It was gritty. There were good chances. There was good goaltending, and you just got the feeling that whoever was going to win the game was going to win off of a bad bounce. And it was, you got to feel bad for Ryan. He missed the puck. It bounced off the end boards. He tried to close his legs to prevent anything from coming back, but as he was closing his legs, he shoved it across with his left pad. It hit the post, and then as he was sprawling out, it deflected back off of his pad and in, and it's just a heartbreaking goal for anybody that's playing. But that's how that game was going to go.
Yeah,
Watch
for
the
sure.
whole thing. That's how that game was going to end up. Someone was going to get just a greasy one, and that's what happened. But it was such a funny that probably was the most fun game for me to watch, just because they were two teams so familiar with each other, and it was such a hard fought game. You didn't really want either team to lose. I mean, I did, but like for the average fan, you just don't want either team to lose.
Right. Yeah, that one I think might have been the best game of the weekend. Which would, if you were looking at it and you're familiar with the NCHC, like you kind of predict that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Western had a really good showing. You know, they faced two incredible goaltenders in Levi the night before, who was leading the NCAA in a bunch of statistics, and then who was it from Minnesota?
Oh, I'm trying to. Luce, I think, is his
Close.
last. Close.
Who has come in and just done an outstanding job for that Minnesota team. It was a team that was kind of not really struggling, but they weren't necessarily at their peak midway through the season. In fact, their original number one goalie left over the winter break to sign an NHL contract with.
I think it was Carolina.
I was going to say I think it was the Hurricanes.
Yeah.
And so Close had to come in and defend the blue paint and did an outstanding job for the rest of the season, and into these tournaments. So.
And that was the one thing that I was impressed by. It's both him and then there's just the team in general. You lose your number one goalie, he basically flips you the double birds and says, "Yeah, not really feeling it. I'm just going to go pro," which, I don't know the process. I don't know what he was thinking, whatever. In my opinion, if I'm his teammate, that's just a dick move. That wasn't the right thing to do. But then for him to step in and be that number one goalie, and they were talking today on the radio, he's played every single game since then. Mm-hmm. And to play at the level that he has, that's a testament to his character and how good he actually is.
I mean, he came in and brought Minnesota from, I think, a mid-tier Big Ten team to win the regular season Big Ten title.
Yeah, and they lost to Michigan in the tournament in the championship, but still, I think that was a 1-goal game. So to have your team right in it with a team with the firepower of Michigan, mm-hmm. That's really impressive. So credit to him.
And then the run that Minnesota State is on is absolutely incredible. 16 straight wins, I believe it is now. 33 wins on the season 37 wins.
I think it might be 17 straight wins now with their win on.
I couldn't remember if it was. I know it's 16 or 17. It's somewhere right in there.
I think it's 17 now. It was 16 going into Saturday.
Okay, 37 wins on the season. A team that, it doesn't really matter who they're playing. They somehow manage to turn their game up and play to the level of competition they're facing and come out on top. So, kudos to them. Michigan is what we thought they were, an extremely talented team that's able to bully teams that don't necessarily compete at the same level they do. The only downside to really the Michigan story this year is Michigan can win a title, but there's going to be an asterisk under that title. They're going to get judged for missing the game against Western Michigan when their players were in the Olympics or in the World Juniors at that point. No matter what, that's the black cloud on the Michigan season.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have to play an extraordinarily tough team in Denver, who's seemingly picked up their game once again and found a new level to play at. And they're a strong, heavy team. And it seems to be in their best interest to play Michigan the way they did Minnesota Duluth. Keep them against the boards. Not necessarily take a bunch of shots, but take the right shots. Hope that you get one of those bounces that does come off the end board and a goalie misplays. But don't give the Michigan kids space, because you can see what they did with space against American International for sure. Anytime that they had space, it seemed like that puck was in the back of the net within like 13 seconds.
And credit to AIC, they put up a fight, but they were just outclassed. I think that ended up 5-3. Yeah. And they put up a fight. They were in there. That whole second period of that game was the goalies went and decided to take a bathroom break. Like, nobody wanted to play defense or anything in that second period. But they were just outclassed. And
Michigan's going to give up opportunities. Like, we saw that in the Quinnipiac game, too, because Quinnipiac almost came back and got one on them. Or at least pushed that game to being closer than it should have been or could have been.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think Denver is definitely a team that can withstand a little more of the high-powered offense that U of M has. They can kind of withstand that a little bit better and push back a little harder. If you give Denver an opportunity on a power play, I think they're more poised to take advantage. And it's too high-powered offense, so that one's really going to come down to the special teams and which goalie can make that one extra save, I think. I think it's going to be a lot closer game than Michigan's played so far in the tournament.
And I think, and we'll get into more of this next week with the Frozen Four talk that we're going to have, but I think the worst case scenario happened for Michigan, in the sense that both UMD and Denver won. So they were going to have to play one of those two teams. And I think they were hoping that either Lowell or Michigan Tech were going to win and then get to the Frozen Four. I don't think they wanted to see Denver or UMD, whichever team it was. And that was, again, proof of it on Saturday, with how those two teams played.
So here's a couple of things that were new this year. We had the day in between games, and there was that was the new thing. And then there was a lot of talk about regionals needing to go back to number 1 seed campus sites, were kind of the two big conversations. And I think there's positives to both situations, and I'd really like to talk about the day in between first. There was a lot of games that went to overtime in the first round, and so to have that day in between, it gives those teams that do play overtime an extra chance to rest and to get right. But there's certain situations, and I think this is kind of where Western ran into an issue. It was such a big emotional win for them to get their first NCAA tournament win, to get it in the manner that they got it, because that goalie almost comes back and saves that puck.
Yeah, that was barely, and I thought he saved it initially.
And so they ride that high of setting a new high mark for the school, for the university, for the hockey team. And then they have to, I think they were honestly emotionally hungover. Like, they got an entire day to look back at that moment and see the history that they had made and look at Twitter and kind of those things. Whereas if it had been back-to-back days, almost like, a normal weekend, like, okay, well, I have to get back to work. Yesterday no longer matters. What can we do today? How do we prepare for the team that we play tonight? So, like, in those kind of situations, the day in between, I wonder how much of a role it played there. But at the same time, like, now you have extra time to view the team that you're going to play. Maybe you come up with a different game plan. Even though, Western's phrase the whole year was, we don't change our style of play based on our opponent. We play our game, and that's what we do. We focus on us, not necessarily them, which is a completely understandable way to play.
I think, I almost think it helps because with Western winning the way that they did on Friday, um, that extra day almost helps because I think there's less of a hangover. You can ride that high for a day in like the morning after instead of trying to immediately prepare. And I think it might have been worse. Um,
I think you can bring that energy to the game because we looked a little flat against Minnesota. And Minnesota was able to withstand and keep us trapped in our defensive zone a little more than Western would like, and we didn't have as clean of breakouts, and I think that led to the offside play that erased a goal for Western.
yeah, that was a killer.
Uh, if they are able to harness the emotions of that win and use it as positive energy, especially Western's an energy team. Like, it doesn't matter if they're being booed or they're being cheered. The more energy that's in a building, the better the Broncos play, and it's because of the Lost and Lunatics. Like the way that the student section can turn the ice in that building is unmatched. It's different than every other building, even watching it on TV. So they're a energy based team, and when you have which kind of leads into this neutral site first round conversation. Like, you're having buildings that are pretty much empty. When it came to the regional final between Western and Minnesota in a region in Massachusetts,
Mm-hmm.
no one from the Massachusetts teams are there. It was an extremely sparse crowd. It was a lot quieter than any game that they had played this year. But you also have a bunch of kids who are literally spent all of last season playing in front of nobody, too. So like, I think there was some ebbs and flows in that regard, but it still seems that Western is probably the most outside energy dependent team in college hockey.
So first off, back to the point of the day off in between. Uh, there was no day off in between for the NCHC championship game. Western, first time they have been to the NCHC championship. They're playing UMD. There was no day off in between. Now, it wasn't that emotional of a win, but in a sense it was, because first time the program had been to the championship for the NCHC. That didn't quite help them.
No.
The day off in between, kind of the same deal. So I think it all depends on the players of the team and the team's makeup, whether it's good or not. The one benefit is you do have that extra day of practice to you might not change the way you play, but you have an idea of what the opponent does, and have that one day of extra practice, get your skates or your legs back under you, just kind of calm down and prepare and refocus. Where it personally, I would like to play right away, and just refocus because you're in that game mode. But it all depends on the team and the makeup of the kids, because every team is different. With the fans and that neutral site.
Oh, 1 second. So before we go on, I do want to touch on your point there. I think Western played better in the NCHC tournament game than we did in the regional final of the NCAA tournament. That one kind of came down to more Minnesota. Ryan Fanti was just incredible.
Yeah,
because if you literally look at that game, and Western had more opportunities against Minnesota Duluth than they were able to get on Minnesota. Ryan Fanti stops a breakaway of 3 minutes into the game. If Drew Orrad's able to lift that puck up a little bit and it's 1-0 Western, maybe it's a completely different game.
And then he makes that
incredible save on the power play, which at that point could have made it 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely played better in that game, but at the same time, I think there was some emotional limits that maybe the adrenaline was a little too high in that game. But that game led to our ability to stay calm on the Friday game and play a better game Friday, where I think we would have been able to better handle the emotional high of it had been a back-to-back game. Whereas on Sunday, all the adrenaline, you have to kind of re-up all that adrenaline after dumping it. And that's kind of a hard thing to do, especially when you're in a uncomfortable environment that all of those kids were thrown into.
And you're asking young 20-year-old kids to do these things. It's there's not a right answer to it. I like the day off in between in a sense, but at the same time I don't, because basically all these teams are used to playing back-to-backs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Even if what is it, the ECAC, they play
two different opponents
on a Friday, Saturday, but they're used to playing the back-to-backs, and so you have that week off in between. And now especially you have 2 weeks off,
10 days, yeah, because they'll play again. Thursday night is the first night or for the semifinals. Yeah, and it really came down to that North Dakota UMD game last year. They went 5 overtimes, which is why they instituted the day in between. And like I said, I get it, but I think when you have these energy-based teams or these emotional-based teams, these quote-unquote Cinderella stories that are really trying to make the most use of whatever emotion or energy they create,
mm-hmm.
that day off kind of dampens it a little bit. And I think you see it in all sports. Like you see it in the pro levels. Sometimes you'll see it in college level sports. So it's not something that is a new creation to sports. And I guess that's kind of the coach's job, is to figure out how to maintain that even keel instead of hit the highs and hit the lows and get stuck somewhere. So,
and they know their kids the best. And the funny thing is, with that UMD North Dakota 5 overtime game, it was to get to the Frozen Four, so they still had the 10 days. And I guess the argument back for if it were to happen in the first round was beat them sooner.
Right.
And that's tough to do when you have two evenly matched teams.
Mm-hmm.
And goalies playing out of their minds. And UMD even used 2 goalies in that 5 overtime game, because I think it was Stayskull started and he cramped up, and then Fanti had to come in.
I mean, you basically asked these kids to play 2 games in a single night.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, by that regard, I do understand the point of keeping a day in between so they can heal and rest, and it makes total sense.
Yeah, but yeah, it's one of those tough situations of what's right, what's wrong, what works best. But I think with it being now instituted and they do that, teams will understand that they can refocus and whatever. It just kind of new this year.
Yeah.
As far as the neutral sites go, or like the top seeds for regionals, I think that makes a whole lot of sense, at least making it close to the regionals instead of hosting. This year, Denver having the Loveland region, that place was 90 to 95% DU against UMD. And it makes for a fun atmosphere because the place was sold out. It's a 7,500 seat arena, but the place is sold out. You put Western at home, you put Michigan at home, and you put Mankato at home. Those places are selling out. Or like for Western, you put them in the Kalamazoo Wings arena just so you can make more money. You have more tickets. You're going to sell that place out, and it's going to be all Western fans, and they're going to go to every game that's there.
Yeah.
They're going to buy that ticket package. The Mankato fans, they're going to put them, just put it in St. Paul. Just put it at the X, because it's only an hour drive. They're going to show up, and they're going to watch everything. They're going to take the days off of work. They're going to watch their team. Ann Arbor, they're, put it at Little Caesars if you want. That's only probably, an hour, 2 maybe from...
About an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Traffic.
they're going to go there. So I think the top seed should have that, because it didn't make sense to me that you have Loveland, Colorado, and then you have Allentown, Pennsylvania, Albany, New York, and Worcester, Massachusetts. Like, why are they're all within a couple hours of each other, and then halfway across the country.
Mm-hmm. And who was it? There was someone who said like, "Oh, but if you do it on campus sites, like no one's gonna go to the other game." It's like, I mean, there wasn't many people going to the games now, so that's kind of a moot point, really. You know, you still don't have as many people. Like the thing that happened in Worcester, luckily, is you had two pretty close teams in both matchups there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Northeastern's pretty close to that area.
Yeah.
Massachusetts clearly close to that area.
Yeah.
They're not these big states where it takes 6 hours to drive across.
Mm-hmm.
But Albany, New York, Minnesota State's not close to there. North Dakota sure isn't close to there. Harvard's close-ish. I mean, you still have to drive through all of New York from Massachusetts.
And Notre Dame's not close.
Notre Dame's not close. That's in Indiana. So I mean, like the ones that got the luckiest were honestly the Denver, and being in Loveland was really the only team that was able to take full advantage of being a number 1 seed. Allentown, Pennsylvania, definitely not super far from Michigan, but that's still probably a 6-hour drive.
Quinnipiac, they could have taken advantage of Albany, but I'm fine with a team having a home ice advantage there. It actually makes it more fun when they lose, if they lose.
Right.
Again, with the UMD Denver game, it was home ice advantage Denver, but that was a lucky bounce win. It was a close game. So it doesn't make that much of a difference. And I think it makes it more accessible to more fans, because
it makes it more accessible to the actual college student fan, I think. But in regards to like a school like Western, where from blue line to blue line on one side of the ice, that's all students. So if we host a regional and we're hosting it at Lawson, we're losing student seats. It's pretty much probably guaranteed, really.
Right.
One, they're gonna have to pay. Two, unless a donor steps up like they did for the NCHC tournament, to pay for those seats if it's at Lawson. And two, they want to make it as viable for other people to come as well. So, and they want to make the most money they can. So they're going to lose some of those seats for students, and you're not going to get the same atmosphere that you would on a normal student from a normal student section. But I guarantee you, if Western would have hosted Northeastern and/or Minnesota, like that place would have been insane.
And you don't even have to, like I said, host it at the Kalamazoo Wings Arena.
Or even Grand Rapids, 45 minutes away.
Yeah, host it close by in a bigger arena. You're going to make the money. People are not going to have an issue going there. I mean, look at the first round of the NCHC. I went up to St. Cloud and I watched UMD play both games. It's an hour away. You're going to help boost, like, I paid for a hotel room. You're going to help boost the economy in that area. There's so many good things that are going to happen from you doing that for these college areas, even if it's not in the particular town, because the fans are going to travel, and especially if they travel there where it's close by, they're going to stay there for both games. They're just going to buy the whole ticket package because they're hockey fans.
I'd be more interested in going to a different college campus than just a random city. Honestly, like, it'd be cool to see other campuses, and I've been to a few, and like that was the cool thing about driving through campus. Like, oh, so this is what your campus looks like. Oh, those are the buildings and how they fit, and oh, how close is your ice arena to your campus? Is it in the middle of campus? Is it on the edge of campus? Like, things like that are interesting, and I think there'd be a lot of fans who'd be interested to see that too.
Yeah, there's so much draw to hosting it close or nearby, and the NCAA wants to make money. So Lawson Arena, what your 3,500 and 4,500 capacity, something like that.
3,336. Nope,
So
3,667. That's what it is.
they're probably not going to host it there, but they'll host it nearby, and people can go drive around and do that, just because they're interested in making money. That's the whole process.
And that's the thing too, is like, I don't know that they'll come to. I'm sure there's smarter people than us figuring this out, but no two college arenas are the same size. You have places like Ralph Engelstad, and then you have places like Lawson Ice Arena, or
whatever.
the
Like
one the one in Miami. Miami has a very small ice arena too in Oxford.
And like the ECAC schools, a lot of them, they're arenas, but they're high school arenas in Minnesota. I mean, they have the one side, and that's it. They're Division I programs, which I'm appalled at, because I'm like, you're playing Division I hockey.
Well, even Ferris State only has fans in 3 spots, and I think St. Cloud does too, right? They don't have, or do they only have fans on 2 sides? It was hard to tell. Like, I know they don't have anyone behind the one goalie.
So there's 2 big sides, and then there's like suites on one end, and then there's 2 rows behind the other goalie. So it is all 4 sides, but
not really.
Yeah. But they still hold probably, I don't know, 6,000. I'm gonna have to look at that.
And I get that, you know, these places for these regionals, they bid ahead of time to be somewhere that hosts. You can't just kind of call up, you know, Van Andel Arena on the week before and go, hey, so Western Michigan's in the NCAA tournament again. You guys want, and they're number 1 seed. You want to be the host site for the first round? Well, we have the Griffins here. We have Monday Night Raw here, and we have 3 concerts that weekend. So, nope, go fuck yourself.
Let's see.
And that's, I think, the issue that too, when people were just like, oh, just have it somewhere close to the campuses. It comes into play. It's like, well, you can't really predict when your team's going to make it, and you don't want to sit there and sell a building that's not going to get used,
right?
Or try to find a building that has to be used.
But at the same time, I think you have to. Why am I not? This is stupid. The NCAA also has to. You can figure out something that's close, and throughout the year and based off the prior year, and do a little research and analytics, you can kind of predict who's going to be a top team. Now, hockey is such a fickle game that you might not always be accurate, but okay.
Chances are there's going to be more than one NCHC team, so we need to figure out somewhere out west.
It's like Northern Michigan is going to make the tournament this year. Like, they have a good enough team. They're going to make it somehow. Where can we put it? In Northern Michigan, it's a bit of a stretch to have anywhere close, just because of where they're located. Them and Michigan Tech, you know, they're kind of far removed from the rest of the country.
If you go somewhere like St. Paul, though, that's not terribly far from the UP. Really, the only one who's losing out there is, like, if an Alaska team makes it, they're traveling no matter what.
Yeah, that's there. Okay, so the Herb Brooks National Hockey Center is 5,763.
Yeah, people. So not super big. A little bit bigger than, with standing room. I think the largest crowd at Western was just over 4,500. I think 4,500. They had like 1,000 people standing, and that place was packed. But so I mean, that's something that they're going to look into, and I guess they used to do it at campus sites. So there was some change that they thought going and setting up regionals like the college basketball tournament was going to be a good idea. That's also like 4 times bigger at this point. Yeah. There's 68 teams that you're inviting to that tournament. They're each, there's 64 regional games that are being played with a 4-team play-in now. So each regional is the hockey tournament.
Yeah, so exactly.
Yes, there's going to be more people going to those games because there's more schools going to those games.
And the fan bases are just so much bigger for basketball than they are for hockey. Like, hockey is a niche sport still, and I know we're trying to grow it, and there are a couple teams that are going to be coming in. Like Lindenwood is going to be going Division I, but we're still only in the 50s for the Division I college programs.
Mid-60s.
Is it 60s now?
Yeah, it was at like 59 for the longest time before Arizona State, and I think Penn State was the 60th Division I program, I believe, and Arizona State was 61. So they're mid-60s. But it's weird because then you have places like Alabama Huntsville lost their team for a hot minute, or it still doesn't have a team. When the Alaska schools fell off and came back.
This one says there's 59 currently because
RPI fell off and is coming back. So it hovers right around 60.
Yeah, but still, in comparison to it's still less than the NCAA men's basketball tournament.
Yeah.
So it's such a niche sport, and if you can grow it in these certain areas, as long as they're in kind of proximity, then it'd be like, oh, okay, well, we have this school here, maybe we can gain interest and we can grow it even more. I would love to see it be as big as the NCAA tournament, but that's just not feasible.
Right.
I say NCAA tournament, meaning the basketball tournament, but it's just not feasible. But there's what is it? Tennessee State, I think, or Middle Tennessee. I think it might be. It's one of those two. I think it's Tennessee State. They're trying to get a Division I hockey program and to be the first historically black school to be a Division I hockey program. And kudos to the Nashville Predators. They are definitely helping them get that going.
Right.
Which is awesome to see another school and more kids get the opportunity to play. Whether they make it to any pro level whatsoever or not, they just get the opportunity to play the game that they love for
100%.
4 more years.
I'm all for more hockey. This week has also been a pretty big week, with the tournament going on and teams getting eliminated. We're seeing a whole bunch of guys moving on to the next level, almost to the point that the NCHC is going to be an interesting place come next year. There's been 5 goalies I can think of, or 4 goalies I can think of that have moved on. Another one that's potentially going to be moving on. No, 5. I can think of 5 for sure. I don't know if Driscoll has signed with anybody, but
not as of the.
But North Dakota is going to have a new goalie for sure come into that program. In fact, they just got a transfer from Michigan State I want to say it's Ryan DeReeder, but I'm probably messing up that poor kid's name. Yep, Drew DeReeder, Ryder. Transferred to North Dakota out of Michigan State. Nebraska Omaha lost both of their goalies. They had Seville leave early and sign a contract with Las Vegas. Their backup goalie became a transfer. I believe he's already said where he was transferring.
Providence.
Went to Providence. Yeah. Ryan Fanti signed early, or not early. Oh yeah, early. He was a junior
Yeah, he's a junior.
into the Edmonton system. I believe he's on a professional tryout for the rest of the season, and his entry level contract will start next year.
And
Uh,
I think he was drafted by them.
it says he was signed as a free agent to Edmonton. So unless he was drafted and then his, well, no, because he still would have been in the very last year where Edmonton would have held on to his rights.
Maybe he wasn't. Nope, he was not.
Rennick just from St. Cloud State just signed with the Los Angeles Kings organization.
Mm-hmm.
There's potential that Brandon Bussey could be leaving Western early. Who knows what'll happen with Magnus in Denver because they still play.
And he's gonna get signed by somebody.
And I'm not sure what year he is. But he's been playing great.
He's been some he's been there for a little bit. Let's see. He's a Tampa Bay Lightning draft pick, and he is a junior. So, depending, he might stay one more year just because of what Vasilevsky has done there. You really don't need a backup for him.
The interesting one will kind of be of those who are left and haven't signed yet, but still have an opportunity to, is Brandon for Western. He played almost 100% of the minutes this year. He was literally out of the game, I think, for 10 minutes because he caught a high stick and had to come out and get stitches and then went back into the game. He started every single game for Western. Set a new single season total for wins. Went from having 0 shutouts the previous 2 seasons because he didn't play much of last season at all to 4 shutouts this season over solid teams. Personally, I'm not a hockey scout at all. I'll say that straight up. I get most of my information from Twitter. In fact, we're using College Hockey News and College Hockey Inc. to know where guys have come from and where they're going.
You're not a scout, then why are we doing this? I thought you were a scout.
Funny. But I think missing last year and having an extra year to develop is not necessarily a bad thing. Yes, he's made big steps and made big bounds, but he's still there's still moments where I think he gets a little ahead of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And college might be a better place to develop those skills a little bit more than an AHL team or an ECHL team. At the end of the day, he's been a solid goaltender for Western, and I would like to see him play another year here just for the fact that he's someone that's dependable, we can rely on back there. But there's been some inconsistency issues, and for the most part, you're getting at least 1 on him, if not 2 a night. So I think a little bit more experience against some of the top college players can only really help him and create the muscle memory to not only be a goalie who reacts, but a goalie who understands how to be in the right place at the right time, which is something that I think Ryan Fanti was extremely good at.
He was extremely good at that.
And why moving on for him as a junior is kind of an okay thing, other than it just gets him out of the conference, and I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, we still have Stejskal though.
That's true.
And he's healthy, but that's actually a perfect segue to what I was hearing tonight on the Wild broadcast. So I have that on the TV right now, and Noah Cates is making his NHL debut. He has made his NHL debut for the Philadelphia Flyers, and they were saying that the whole UMD team, they might have been down on 7th at Tom Reed's, having a couple beforehand, but they were in line. They were chanting his name. as they were walking in the building, they went down on the glass and they were heckling him every time he skated around during warm-ups. But Wes Walls made a great point. He stayed back, he stayed another year, and it helped his development. He was able to get those extra reps. He was an Olympian this year. He wouldn't have been able to do that if he came out. And he gets those extra reps and helps his development more to transition into the pro game more than if you're coming out after your sophomore year or your junior year. You have those extra reps. And with Brandon, same thing goes. As a goalie, as a forward, as a defenseman, whatever position you play, you're getting those reps. And especially in the NCHC, in the radio show I was listening to, the guy goes, well, yeah, it's the best conference in the nation. There's no argument made. So you're playing against the top players in college, and Wes Walls, who had played, I don't know if he quite got to 1,000 games in the NHL, but he played for the Wild, played for a few different teams. It makes the transition easier, and those reps help you.
And even I think Butchergrass talked about it last week, and the region that they were in, like the guy who was in between the glass, I can't remember his name. He played college hockey, and even he said
Colby.
Yeah,
Colby. Yep.
Even he said that take the extra year that if you have it, stay and play hockey with your friends. You're not really gonna learn too much riding a bus in the AHL that you won't learn from another year in college.
Yeah, he was talking. He's like, you got all these facilities, you get the planes.
Some of the college facilities are better than AHL, ECHL facilities.
Oh my God, the facilities at Amsoil, you walk out, and if they have the shades up, you walk out on the outside of the arena, you can see in there. Holy cow! Yeah. Are they just phenomenal? What those kids get to use.
And the other thing for Brandon too is he missed last year. I think he played a total of 2.5 games last year. I think. And he was injured somewhere in the second period of game 1 of the season. Missed the entire rest of the pod, and I think finally came back for the last season of last year. So for me, it's more that it's take an extra year, show that you can improve still, and have fun with it. Don't make it a job until you have to, if you want to. But Ronnie Addard is going to be teammates with Noah Cates. They're projecting that he's going to get his first start this weekend. They're both joining former Bronco Wade Allison in the Flyers organization. I know Wade's had some injuries here lately. But
and actually they are also joining former UMD alum Jackson Cates, who got injured. He's played 11 games this year. So there's going to be a couple Broncos and a couple Bulldogs.
Man, Philly's a big NCHC team.
Oh, apparently Chuck Fletcher and Mike Yo really like the NCHC.
There must be something about Pennsylvania that likes the NCHC, because we're losing sophomore forward Ty Glover. He signed a deal with the Pittsburgh Penguins, so he's going to be joining former Bronco Cam Lee in their organization. So Broncos and Bulldogs and NCHC kids going anywhere and everywhere. Jake Sanderson signed his pro contract with the Ottawa Senators. A big group of guys from Omaha were going somewhere. Let's see, double check it.
Rochester, Abbotsford, Vegas, Rangers, and Kings. That's where they lost
Taylor
5
guys. Yep, Taylor Ward's a senior joining the Kings along with Rennick from St. Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Scanlon is a junior leaving early to go to the Rangers. Seville, really good goalie leaving after his junior year to Vegas.
Yeah.
And then a couple grad students going to the AHL.
McManus and Nepke. And and those are names with McManus and Nepke and also Ward. You heard all the time in the broadcast, like they were great players for their teams.
Yep.
The other one is Sanderson, like you mentioned, Ottawa, and then Henches signed with the Wild just
not that long ago today, a few hours ago. And then Matt Berry from Miami is also a senior leaving for the Orlando Solar Bears of the ECHL.
And they used to be, I don't know who their affiliate, I think they might be Vegas now, but they used to be a Wild affiliate, which I think their mascot is pretty cool. I mean, it's a polar bear with sunglasses on. It's kind of funny, but
I believe I saw someone else from Miami. I don't know where it went. But I think they're losing their senior defensive captain. I believe he's transferring for a grad transfer somewhere. I saw it briefly, but I can't remember the name of the player, so I apologize for that. And I don't see it on college hockey news.
And then as we're looking at these signings, St. Thomas actually had a kid, and I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, so, and I'm just going off of Jim Tomey, but Peter Tomey, grad student goalie, signed with Idaho at the ECHL. So, first year Division I program, and they have a kid going into the professional levels. That's good for them. And then Wisconsin, I was just talking to you about this right before we came on. Roman Ashan, who is the younger brother of Jack Ashan, who played for St. Cloud. He's going to Cleveland of the AHL. He played at Wisconsin. The trader that he is went to Wisconsin. But good for him that he was able to sign.
And I'm sure there'll be some more signings in the weeks to come once the tournament's wrapped up and there's a national champion crowned. We'll talk about that next week, and keep an eye on those guys moving around and stuff like that. So
within the next 2 weeks. But this is a fun time of year too, especially with guys that we followed and seen their college NCAA careers moving on to the next level, and hopefully, we all hope they play for our favorite team, but just seeing the success that they have.
Oh, for sure.
It makes it a lot of fun, and being like, yeah, we watched some good ass players.
Dude, that's the thing too, is like it doesn't even necessarily have to be like Western players. I'll sit there, I'll watch a game, and I'll someone's name will stick in my head for whatever reason, and I'll look back and I'll see where they went, and it's like, oh, dude, I watched that dude play at Lawson, and now his name is on the Stanley Cup, like Jake Getzel for one.
Yeah.
Or his name hasn't been on the cup yet, but Tyson Yost. We watched that dude play in our home barns of like nobody, and then he's in the
I'm watching
Stanley
him
Cup
play.
Finals.
I'm watching him play right now.
Or in the Stanley Cup playoffs, not the finals.
Matt Niskanen would have been another one that has his name on the cup. For the Washington Capitals, played at UMD for 3 years.
Yeah.
Scotty Perunovich will probably be there. You got Riley Tufte. I don't know why I can't think of. There was a big three for UMD in the couple national championship years, and I just can't think of their names. I think of Tufte. Another guy just made his debut this year for Dallas. And they're right in the playoff mix. It's fun when you think of the guys that you've watched and be like, yeah, I actually got to see him before he was big.
Right. A few years ago it was Rico Grimaldi from I think it was North Dakota is where he played, right? And then he went to Florida and played for Florida for a little bit. Went to Nashville and might still be with Nashville. Nashville was the last place I knew that he was at. But yeah, like guys like that were They may not make the biggest splash in the NHL, but their name on the back of their jersey sticks out. And you go, oh shoot! I watched that dude play when he was just like a sophomore at UMD or North Dakota or Colorado College. Like, so they're definitely putting dudes in the league from all over, and it's awesome.
Yeah, and it's again that we talk about it almost every week, that recruiting. The more guys that get in the league, the more guys that are going to come to the conference, the better the hockey is going to be. The more fun it is for us as fans that we get to watch these guys play.
Yeah. And you know, I've also learned this too, is like, if you suit up in the brown and gold and you go on to the next level, just know that I'm pretty much a fan for life. Now, if you're playing against the Red Wings, I'm not going to cheer as loud for you, but if you do something, I'm going to be like, hey, good for you, because we're both Broncos. And if you end up, you know, if you're from a different team and you end up on Detroit, well, then I'll cheer for you a little bit. So,
yeah, and it's we were talking about it this weekend. I'm gonna cheer for Western just because I'm friends with you, and I was talking to my parents. I'm like, that's the team that I know the most about, other than UMD. But if we're playing each other, nope.
Yeah. And
nope, not gonna cheer for anybody.
Exactly, and we did that last week when it was for the NCHC tournament championship. Yeah. You know, we were friendly the whole time while we were each playing our game, and then it came down to that Saturday game, and it was, well, you can go piss on a fence like a bulldog, and I don't care. So.
Oh yeah, I was talking trash to you while I was at the game.
Yeah.
But I was very cordial. You know, just a quick shout out. I met Ethan Frank's dad at the game, and he is the nicest man ever. So very cordial with him, and that was the fun part about that game, was the fans. We can talk a little trash, but we're friendly with each other, and we want the other team to do well. There's not that hatred, and that's also the thing. Other than North Dakota, I think about the NCHC is there is that rivalry, but we want the other teams to do well if they win and move on ahead of us.
Yeah, and I'm kind of seeing that amongst like some of the pro signing information that's coming out. If you look at who likes or retweets things, like I'm seeing a lot of, you know, NCHC guys liking and retweeting the Western signings, or Western guys retweeting and liking
the St. Cloud
signing, or UMD signing, or Denver, or whoever it is. So, you know, I think sometimes the fans kind of almost care about the rivalry a little bit more than the players do. Like for 60 minutes, the players might be like, okay, we're gonna play hard for 60 minutes, but after that, I'm still gonna send you a text message, win or lose, and tell you to eat it. But fans will kind of carry that on for a little bit more. So maybe fans need to be a little bit more like the actual players on the ice and just leave it to the competitive field and not carry it on outside.
And I do think that is the North Dakota is kind of the only one that most people hate. But again, it is the fans that carry it on a lot more because they are obnoxious and whatever, and it's okay, you won the game, move on. Okay, we won the game, just move on. The kids are gonna move on unless there's a player that has really done something to piss them off. Then they can move that. Then they can hold a grudge. But they're the ones playing the game. We're not. Let them determine the rivalry.
100%. We're right at about the hour mark, which is kind of what we shoot for in recording. And it feels kind of like the conversation's going about that way to call her an end. I do want to say that I probably don't say this enough when we do this, but if someone happens to find this on YouTube, we do stream these live every Tuesday night, thereabouts. Well, every Tuesday night, thereabouts 9:00 on Twitch.
Give or take a few minutes.
Yeah. At twitch.tv/painted_Bronco. You can follow us, either of us, on Twitter. Our Twitter handles are, mine's right there. Mike's is over there somewhere.
Somewhere down.
Yep, right there. Nope. Yep, right. Nope. Okay, good enough.
Somewhere in this vicinity, under my picture somewhere.
We are getting close to the end of the college hockey season. Our hope is to record throughout the summer. That might be kind of difficult with this being something that we just do for fun, and kind of researching upcoming players has never really been my thing, even in the pro ranks. I'll get to know you when I see you on the ice, and I'll get to see how you play and whether or not you become a part of the team or not. Because your paper stats are just that, they're paper stats. Where you get drafted in the draft doesn't excite me as much as what you're able to accomplish on the ice or on the basketball court or on the football field. So it's not just hockey that I treat that way. It's all sports.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
highlights really only so much because they're called highlights for a reason.
Right. And it depends on how the team meshes. So we've heard that a lot from the Western team this year, that this was one of the closest groups that a lot of these players have been a part of. So watching a guy fit into that is I think more important than just any career highlight goal he has on YouTube. But I'll watch him because I like hockey. Again, our Twitter handles are up here. You can also tweet the page. It's at GoalHornsandFightsongs. It's GoalHornsandFightsong on Twitter, or GoalHornsandFightsongs@gmail.com. It's the whole thing. All the letters are there.
Well, the Twitter handle's only because Wes couldn't spell that night.
I could spell it. It's because you only get so many characters, so the O's had to go. Message us,
O's.
or send us a message on YouTube when this gets posted there. If you're seeing this on YouTube, we are live on Twitch when we record these. Come hang out there, vice versa. I think that's about it for this episode. Appreciate everybody who happened to be here or happens to find this later. Last week's episode was actually one of our best episodes on YouTube, so thank you to all the people who found that one. If you're back for this episode and you make it to this part,
shout out Big Ben 44.
So I might be alive again here in a few minutes to play some NHL. It's kind of undecided, but
well, if you're playing, I'll be there too.
But we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks a lot, guys.